You mentioned Coat of Many Colors. That is also probably you talked about therapy in writing and not having to go to a shrink, but pouring all your emotions out in your music. That's your life, the Coat of Many Colors. I mean, it's just, I think, of any song that you do, I know when it's done on stage, whether it's done in Hollywood, whether it's done in a fair date, on a flatbed truck, or wherever you may do it, it touches everybody's heart and soul.
You're right. That song is a favorite of everybody's, and it's a favorite of mine. And even like rich people, city people that don't even like country music, they've heard that song somewhere. I'm always like getting on planes like in New York or wherever, and people will say, "Oh, I love the Joseph's Coat you did." Most of the time, the people that don't really know country music and they just remember the Coat of Many Colors. They just say, "I love your Joseph's Coat. I love that song about the rag." The coat made of rags. But everybody relates to that because most people relate to hard times in their life, or whether it be in the city, whether it be in the country. I mean, all poor people ain't from the country. There's a whole lot of them everywhere. The old country and whatever. But it's like people just relate to that, and it's a philosophy. It's about a person can make money, but money cannot make a person, and that you're only poor if you choose to be, meaning in your mind and in what you place importance on as wealth. And it's very personal to me because of my mother. And when I recorded that song and had a hit on it, my mama, I wanted to buy Mom a mink coat from the money I made of it. So I told her I was going to get her a coat, and she said, "Well, I'd rather have the money. Where am I going to wear a mink coat, to a pie supper?" So she wanted the money. I gave her the money.
Good.
And the coat, but she hardly wears it.
One of the happy moments I had in my life that we've shared, Dolly, over the years, when you grabbed me one day when we were doing a MC show somewhere in the New York area, and you grabbed me on the bus, and you said, "I have this new song I want you to hear." And you turned on the tape recorder, and these first few notes came out, and I said, "Oh, my gosh, if this ain't number one, I never heard it." It was a song called Jolene.
Oh, yeah. That's always been one of my personal favorites. It's a fun song to sing. It's sort of like Islands in the Stream in the respect that I never get tired of singing it. I'll never get tired of hearing it. But that song, I think someday somebody will record that and have a big record on it. Somebody besides me. That was a big record talking about how you don't make a living in country music. That was the biggest record I ever had in country music in all those years. You know how many songs, how many that sold?
How many?
How many would you guess?
You mean singles?
Yeah.
The biggest single you ever had?
It was the biggest song I ever had.
800,000, a million?
No, 60,000 records. I didn't even make lunch money off of that. And, of course, I've made money through the years and it been in and out. But see, I mean, that's what I'm saying. I wasn't making enough money to even eat when I was in country music at that time. I couldn't keep my bus. I couldn't afford a band.
And you had the family band, too.
Yeah, I was making no money. And even when I was with Porter, I wasn't making that much money.
Right.
But it's like the record only sold like 60,000 copies.
And that was a big hit.
Of course, it was $1 a single, and I wasn't getting that whole dollar either. So I'm just saying, but that has been one of my favorites. That's a song that will stand up through time. I write a lot of junk, too. But I have a few songs that I think that are real good.
Aside from the obvious, there's always three things we always see or hear about you. And you must have the most wonderful spirit about it because, ordinary person can be very touchy and sensitive. There's either boob jokes, there's either jokes about your wigs or jokes about how much weight you lost. Do you get sensitive about that?
No, because I make them all up and then I just let people go ahead and use it. Not really. I would only be sensitive if people only dwelt on that and never saw the heart beneath the boobs and the brains beneath the wig. And if they didn't see, the person that's teetering around here on these high heels, but they do. Yeah. And so, but this is all part of my gimmick and my image. I'm responsible for this too.
You created it.
Yeah, I sure did. And what I didn't create, I've pushed up with a Fredericks bra.
Another song that was recorded by someone else, and it didn't moderate success, but you made it your own because you wrote it. 2 Doors Down.
Yeah.
Zella Lear had that, and it was kind of a moderate country hit, but when you got a hold of it, pay dirt.
When I got back a hold of it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I wrote the song. One time I remember I was on one of my well-known diets, and I was just starving to death. I was at Howard Johnson's restaurant, and I'd been fasting on that old liquid protein. and I was just dying to, have something to eat, and everybody. And I remember there was my band and some people were like down the hall, and there's a drinking and there's a eating, and I was in my room trying to stay on my diet, and I was feeling so sorry for myself. And I started writing this song. I thought, and they're having a party 2 doors down, so, and so I made it into a love song. But it really came from there. And I also wrote that same night. I wrote 2 doors down, and it's all wrong, but it's all right. The same night on the
bar.
Yeah,
in the
to
room.
keep from eating.
Also, another song I know you wrote called Yellow Roses. I like the talking part.
Well, that's like the old days of Dolly. I wrote that song on purpose to try to sound like the old days of Nashville. It's natural for country songs to come out of me. Those are the easy songs to write, but I didn't hold back on what kind of backgrounds I wanted. I was real definite about how I wanted that song to sound, and to do the recitation like the old days, and have that the girl. We had to do that high part like the Anita Kerr singers. I wanted it to sound like those old country days. So a lot of those, things were built in certain songs.
Trio is probably the best collaboration recently musically that you had, and it came out of love because of 3 people: you, Linda Ronstadt, and Emmylou Harris. And you were trying to get that thing done for how many? 6 years?
10. 10 years before we started. 10 years before we really had it out. And they're talking now about trying to do it again, but I don't think that's likely to happen. Only because if it took us 10 years to do that one, and as busy as we are now, we'll probably be old ladies with our walking canes trying to get to the studio to sing something else. But it would be great if we could. I just really... And at that time, we were lucky because I was not on a label. I was between labels, so we didn't have contract problems. Linda and Emmy's... the Warner Brothers and whatever the other label was, it was on there. They're like a branch of each other.
Right,
so there was no problem there. But now it's like, it's just really hard trying to work out all those things, plus trying to get your schedules together, plus all kinds of things, trying to find the songs they can get together. You'd have to take off a whole year just to do it, to do it properly.
It's hard.
But we still can dream.
What do you think's been your biggest accomplishment that you've given the world?
Oh, boy, I don't know. I'd like to think all of it. Certainly wasn't that TV show, was it?
See, you have to dwell on all the negatives, right?
No, I'm not. No, but my negatives I turn into positive.
Okay,
I was joking. That was my sense of humor.
That's right. That show was the best. I loved it. I think there was an old story about people who went to a
joking.
No, I know, Dolly, but there was an old story about people who used to go to a Broadway show. Critics went to the Broadway show, and they asked an actor. They said, "Well, how was the show you opened in last night?" They said, "I understand it closed. Why did it close?" He says, "Well," he says, "the audience loved it, but the critics hated it."
Yeah.
And that's,
Well, I don't think there was, that show was, it had its moments, but it didn't come together. Probably the best thing I've ever given the public probably is me.
I guess you're right.
So,
bigger present we couldn't have. Turning points in life, we all have them. And in everybody's career, particularly an artist's career, there is a turning point when you wake up one day and say, I made it. This is it. This is what did it. Was there one time in your life when you realized that it all turned around for you?
No, I believed I was always a star, even when I was little, because everything was important to me. Like the first time I ever was on the radio, I felt like I was a star, and I made it. First time I ever got the standing ovation. First time I was on the Grand Ole Opry, I was sure then I had made it. Then when I got my first hit record, I had made it again. So it's really like I don't ever remember a time to where I thought, well, okay, girl, you've done it, because I have a new dream every day, and I still don't think I've made it. Not for what I'm supposed to do. I mean, I've made a lot of progress, and I've done a lot of things, but it's like like I say, each one of them, they're all important. Like
there's always one more mountain
success.
can climb.
Yeah, and I don't know that that's wrong, because it keeps me going. And,
challenge.
Yeah, and it's just who I am. So to me, I think I've just started my career.